Hello, welcome to the CEO Spot. I'm your host, Amy Walker, and this is our interview segment where we bring to you business experts that have the advice and the information that you need to be able to grow your company. And today we are talking all about increasing your cash flow with our expert, Casey Stubbs. Casey, welcome to the show today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. I think cash flow is king when it comes to your business. So this is going to be a good conversation. But before we jump into it, I'd love to go through and tell them all of your fancy background and all the cool things you've accomplished. So sit tight and I'm going to make you sound amazing here. So Casey is a U.S. Army veteran. Thank you so much for your service. We really appreciate all that our veterans do for us.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's a big service and someone has to do it. We appreciate those that do. So Casey is also an entrepreneur that is dedicated to helping people from all walks of life achieve financial freedom and abundance. He has launched several firms. His first was a trading business which generated over $6 million in revenue before it was acquired by another company. And since that first business, he's gone on to start several other successful brands like Trading Strategy Guides, Learn to Trade for Profit, Finance and Markets, Price Action and Income. And all of his brands are dedicated towards helping investors at every level learn how to profitably manage their investments as well as their personal finances for themselves. He is now launching his own radio show, the Finance and Market Cashflow Hacking Podcast, where he's sharing the tips, the tricks, and the strategies to improve your cash flow. So Casey, welcome. We're so excited to have you here and have this great conversation.
That's great. That was a great intro. Thanks, Amy.
I know everybody should get to, walk into a room and have people say how great they are. So,
Yeah.
well, it's fun to be able to see the bio and see where you were in the beginning, or sorry, where you are now, but also then to kind of go back to that beginning. When you started your first company, tell us about that journey and that story.
Okay, sure. I started pretty randomly. I was in construction. This was in 2008, and the construction industry really slowed down.
Really, it tanked.
Yeah.
The fell out.
So I actually was a union laborer, which
Mhm.
the way that the jobs work is you build a building, and then when you're done with the building, you go at the end of a waiting list, and when a new job comes up, you get hired again. And usually when jobs are abundant, you don't have to wait too long. But there was just no more new jobs, so I had to actually go out and start looking for work, and I really couldn't find anything. Applied for several jobs and nothing came up. So I thought, well, I might as well just start my own website. And I've been involved with investing and I've been involved with computers my whole life. So
Mhm.
starting a website talking about investing, I thought was a good fit. And it turned out to be the bad economy, losing my job turned out to be a great thing because the business took off and I was on unemployment. And by the time my unemployment ran out, I was making almost enough money to survive on the business. And that was in 2009. So I've been at almost 10 years. Next month will be my 10-year anniversary.
Happy 10-year anniversary as a business owner. I remember when I hit 10 years thinking, well, maybe this is going to work out over the long haul. They say the
Yeah.
majority of business owners go under within their first 10 years. So when you hit 10 years, you're like, well, here we are. Still
Well, they
going.
say it actually, the heavy end goes under much earlier than that in the first
Right.
1 or 2 years.
Yeah, but by the time you get to 10 and 15, it is like the survival of the fittest, So I think it's a great milestone. Congratulations on hitting that. So you started this business, and I think it's really cool to point out that when a lot of other business owners were going under because they were buying that story of the bad economy and I can't succeed, and so they were, going under, you were building, and it was a great time for you to be in business, which a business you were in, trading and investing during the worst part of the economic crash. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's probably wasn't the best timing, but it worked out because I just got a couple good breaks go my way. I started the website, and I immediately had a few other larger sites pick me up and start sending traffic to me, and I was able to make some revenue with advertisements. And so right away, in maybe the first month or two, I made money on advertisements. Now I do want to add one other little thing uh, that was pretty interesting. And I had found an article online called "How to Make $1,000 a Month from Your Website." And so I just followed that article, and
That's awesome.
I printed it out. It was like an 8-page article, and I just printed it out and I followed every instruction on it. And so, when you see these how-to things online, some of them actually do work, but you actually have to follow them.
Right. I know. That's kind of the amazing part, where you actually have to do the implementation. And I think a lot of business owners do get stuck in, there's so many great ideas, right? Like you just have to open up your laptop and you're inundated with great ideas, but making sure you do the steps is going to be what determines if it works for you or not. So let's talk about cash flow. Because if your business has good cash flow, you can weather the storms and the challenges. But when your business is in a cash crunch, that's where I feel like you feel every bump in the road. So do you want to start by giving them a little bit of insights into why you feel like cash flow is so important in your business?
I think it's important because, like you said, when things go bad, it gets difficult, right? And so what typically happens in business is you start out with a nice budget, and I mean, maybe not always, but you should start out with a nice budget. And as things go well, you start making more money. Immediately what happens is business owners get excited and they start spending that money, and their expenses goes up right along with their revenue. And what happens is they're actually could even make less money, because we're talking about net, right? Because we don't want to just look at how much money you're making. You want to look at what your net is. And so if you made 10,000 a month, and then over the next course of the year, you're making 20,000 a month, that's great. But you've really got to look at your expenses and make sure that you're not actually making less money. As I've talked to business owners, I've found that most of them, as they've grown their revenues, they actually are doing more work and making less money, even though it looks like they're making more money, because they're paying a lot of attention to the gross revenue rather than looking at net.
I've totally fallen into that trap myself, where you get done with the end of the year taxes and you knew what your sales numbers were, but you weren't watching the profits. You get done at the end of the year, you're like, well, that was lame. We worked a whole lot harder and we didn't make a whole lot more. So yeah, I've totally been on that end of the stick. What should business owners be doing in order to prevent that? Because it's not a fun outcome. I've been there.
The biggest thing is just to really have a process set up for your expenses, for when you're adding new expenses to your budget. Like if you're doing an investment of some kind, you're expanding, you want to have a process saying, okay, how much is this cash flow going to go up? How much is my expense ratio here? What am I actually investing in? Because I know for me, I fall into the trap too. I have a little bit of extra money, so I start purchasing maybe software programs. And I'm an online business, so that's where a lot of my money goes, is on tools, right? The newest marketing tool, the newest platform. And next thing I know, I'm spending thousands and thousands of dollars in tools, and yet I'm not really measuring if those tools are making the money and paying for themselves. So the biggest thing is, when you make some kind of expansion or investment, you want to have measurements in place to know that those additions are paying for themselves and that they're generating new revenue. I know I've expanded a lot, and when I do so, sometimes that thing that I add is actually just a revenue suck. Like I just added a new brand, and that new brand hasn't been making money, right?
Mhm.
It's got potential to, but because I'm maybe not paying a lot of attention to it and I'm just paying for things out of the profits from my other. So if you're making profits in one area of your business and you're throwing those profits into another area that's not making profits, you're actually taking your profitable area and throwing it into a non-profitable area. And that's
Right.
not necessarily a good thing. Um, if you're just doing it for a time and then those profits are going to boost in that other area, then that's fine. But you just got to watch it that second side of your business isn't just a profit suck.
Yeah, one of the things that we do that helps with this is at the end of the year, we do a year-end review. And, you're all watching this, it's in the new year, so you could do a new year review if you missed this. But we analyze all of the software and all of the platforms and subscriptions that we have to see, are we fully utilizing them? Do they do the same thing that something else does? Because sometimes you got some overlap and you're using this one for this, but really this would also be able to do it fairly well. So we do a review and then we cut out the ones that we're not using. The other thing that we look at is we look at our programs and our offerings and our brands, our sub brands, to see if they're all working and if they're all making money. And if they're not, we prune them and we cut them out for the new year so that we're not continuing to pour time into something that just isn't really going to be a fit over the long haul. And then we do that again mid-year. We do a mid-year review as well, because when we didn't do this on a regular basis, I remember the first year we did it, we ended up saving ourselves about $3,000 a month, which is significant. And it was in programs and services and software that we weren't fully utilizing, or they weren't working the way that we had hoped that they would, but they've been running for a long time before we realized.
Yeah. As we speak, I'm thinking of things that I need to cut out. Yeah.
Because you want to keep your business healthy, and and that's why we prune in our gardens and in our yards, is so that good things can grow. You got to cut back the stuff that's the dead weight. um,
Absolutely.
so if a business owner is wanting to, they have a goal this year, it's the beginning of 2019, if they've got a goal this year to really increase cash flow and profits in their business, what 3 things would you recommend that they look at?
Well, I think the first thing is what you said is cash flow and profits. I would really not just look at your gross revenue, but net. And just keep that in mind the whole time, because if you grow your gross and your net is not growing along with it, or even better, you want to just keep improving. That's definitely something you want to look at going into. So there's a lot of different ways that you can grow your revenue. I know for me this year, my specific strategy is working on launching sub brands, right? So I have my main brands and I don't want to forget about those. So a portion of it is to grow the revenues of my main brand. That's number one. And then the second strategy is to then launch several sub brands and then build up the revenue there. I know that for me, last year, I just about doubled my revenue, which was a really good year. And I'm going to go for that goal again this upcoming year. But the sub brands have actually generated a lot of extra revenue for me. But you also have to be careful too that like I said, some of my sub brands haven't worked out. They've been a profit suck. So when you're doing, you just want to look at it. They can be really good, but they can also be difficult.
Right. Well, and I think it's healthy just to say, it's okay to try new things. It's probably because I know you do trading education as well. It's the same thing with your trading, where not every deal works out, and you don't have to win every single time as long as you're winning more times than you're losing. So it's okay to look at those sub brands and say, we're not going to, it's not working, or products or programs or services, and just say, this one's not working for us. It's time to prune this out. I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we get this almost like, for me, it's almost like a maternal instinct, like, but I created this and it's my baby and I have to see it through to fruition. It's really not. Like, it's really okay just to kind of cut some things out that aren't serving you well.
Yeah. Yeah. And another point too on the brands, and this is for me a really good success strategy, and it's been that investing in people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, talent, I think, is our greatest resource in business. And the way that I have been able to do it is whenever I launch a sub brand, I'm training someone along the way, and then they end up managing it. And so now I have really strong people that can manage all of these multiple brands. And then next time, not only am I able to train somebody new for another sub brand, they're able to train something. So we're able to get the power of multiplication from multiple people duplicating themselves.
That is really powerful. And, the other thing that I would add in with that is you can't do that without strong processes and systems. So you can't just wing it and throw it together and throw it in someone else's hands. For you to be able to do that and duplicate that over and over and over again, that tells me you've got really good processes in there.
Well, I teach them everything I know.
Uh-huh.
And one of my strong points is not processes and systems.
Really?
So it's working hard and trying to, just make things happen.
Uh-huh.
I really have some good systems in place. So yes, that's partially true, but I still have a lot of work to do in the systems area. I probably need to get a really strong systems person to help train me, because that's not necessarily my strongest area.
You know what? I will tell you, first of all, congratulations for being able to duplicate without having the systems in place, because that's where a lot of organizations, they try to grow and they bring on other people, but they kind of have this collapse because they didn't have the systems to support the growth. So what I will tell you, here's my prediction for your business. When you systematize your business, I bet it doesn't just double. I bet you have like a quadruple that happens, because you'll have that foundation in place to help you create so much more growth. So that'll be really exciting to see.
Yes, it is going to be exciting. That's awesome.
Cool. Okay, so I know we're just about out of time here. I'd love to get your final piece of advice for those that are watching our interview. And then also, if people want to get connected with you and learn more about what you do, what's the best place for them to go?
The best place to go is to go to my website, caseystubbs.com. You can check out my social profiles there. I'm very active on Twitter. And you can check out my podcast, which is called the Cashflow Hacking Podcast. It's also located at caseystubbs.com.
Awesome. Okay, and final piece of advice.
The final piece of advice is that you just got to keep going. Don't give up. Follow what you intend to do. When I talked about that article about make $1,000 a month, I've had probably 15 people over the last 10 years ask me, hey, how did you get it started in business? What can I do? And I've given them that article. I said, I followed the instructions in this article. I think out of the 15 people that I gave that to, not a single one of them has done it. So if you want to get it started in business, or you want to keep going, just keep going. Don't start something and then stop.
Absolutely. Well, Casey, thank you so much for being here today. And for our listeners, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, because we are bringing you every Tuesday and Thursday. We are bringing you great interviews from industry experts to help you grow your business. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you get business tips from me. So it's a great resource for you. Also, make sure you go over to join the private Facebook group, the CEO Spot, where we continue the conversation. And leave us a comment. Tell us, what were your takeaways? What are some questions that you have for Casey or for myself in the future? We'd be happy to answer those for you. Casey, thanks so much for being here. And for all of our listeners, I hope you have a great day.
I will. Thank you.